Coming up, the legal battle between an Australian designer and US pop star. Westpac calls the peak in official interest rates, and grocery price inflation eases at Coles. That's next. It's your daily 10-minute business and finance news wrap for this Friday, the 28th of April 2023. Later, we'll take a look at grocery prices and their direction at Coles. But first, to a David and Goliath type battle between Australian designer Katy Perry and US pop star Katy Perry. Now, the two use the same name professionally with different spelling. It's the designer's maiden name and the performer's stage name. But after a complex 13-year battle where both parties laid claim to the name, the federal court ruled in favour of the Australian designer. For more, Rhayna Bosch spoke with Katy Perry, the designer.
It's been a long journey. So really it started back in 2009 where the other side put in an application to oppose my trademark. We battled it out 2 hours before the court case. They withdrew it. So they've known about my trademark since all of that time, and then has continued to breach it. And in 2019, with the help of litigation funding, because I am a small business, I've got 2 young children, I didn't feel like I was going to be able to finance huge legal case against a pop singer. I was able to start a case against her in breach of my trademark.
So can you tell us a little bit about your brand? How did it start? What's the background?
Definitely. So I was born Katy Perry. I've always wanted to have my own fashion label since I was 11 years old. And I started my business back in 2007. Like many other fashion designers, decided to use my own name. And that's when I Googled, tried to find out any other website. The other website I found was katyperry.com, and it was owned by some young child over in the UK. And started building the business, worked 2 jobs, started off really organically at Paddington Markets, and then grew to a studio in Mossman, and continued to just really be in that kind of startup phase of just working incredibly hard to build my dream.
So this court case obviously escalated to the federal court, proceedings ending up last week, but the judge ruling only came through today. How were you feeling when you got the news that you had in fact won?
Oh, I was fist pumping. I was running up and down the room. I was absolutely just overjoyed with the excitement.
And what can you tell us, if anything, about the court's ruling?
I probably won't talk to that part, only because we're still waiting for final orders. And for me, that's all the kind of like the legal jargon. All I know is that there was an attack on me. I resisted that attack, and I resisted the attack on my trademark. If it was all going to go against me, they did a cross claim against my trademark, I could have lost my entire brand. So today I'm just overjoyed that I still get to continue my brand.
And you were talking a little bit about needing to get financed for this. Can you talk us through that process? What was involved there?
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody had heard of litigation fund managers. I hadn't. And the process was to we put together a case, and then they fund it. There's no way I could have been able to do this without their support. I just don't have the finances for it.
And how are you planning on celebrating later tonight?
I'm going to order some pizza. I'm going to have some champagne, and I'm just going to be with my kids. I haven't told them yet that I've won, particularly my 6-year-old. She's really been there kind of through the process. Obviously, my 3-year-old was only 3 months when this all kind of kicked off, my case against the singer. But she has seen there, and she's been there when, she's seen me cry. And I think for a little girl to try to understand what her mum's going through, and I've just kept on reiterating, when you have a bully or when someone does something that you don't believe in, you need to stand up for what you believe in and for your values. And they've seen that in action.
A good message. And you're obviously elated now, but can you talk us through a little bit of the mental strain, the stress that was associated with this process?
It's been, I would say, probably horrific. I have gone through a brutal cross-examination in federal court. I've had to deal with disparaging comments, sitting there in court listening to horrible things being said about me. So that was inside the courthouse. And then outside, I've been trolled and bullied. I've had death threats. I've had trolling to my family and my friends. It has taken definitely a huge mental strain. I've cried. I've lost sleep. I've had nightmares around it. But having said all that, throughout the whole process, I kept on checking in with myself and making sure, like, is this worth it? Are you doing the right thing? And every time the message has come back, yes, like, keep going. I know it's hard, but just keep going, keep standing up for what you believe. And in the end, that's all anybody can do. And today I won.
That is Rhayna Bosch speaking with Katy Perry, the Australian designer, and we did reach out to Katy Perry, the singer's management. Okay, let's go to the Australian share market now, which rose today on this Friday. The S&P ASX 200 up by 0.2%. It comes as Westpac says it now expects the RBA to hold official interest rates on Tuesday. And in fact, it says that interest rates have already peaked as a result. In other words, it expects the current rate at 3.6% to be the peak in this cycle. For more, I spoke with Heath Moss, portfolio manager at HLM Investments.
Yeah, look, the market is expecting exactly that at the moment, Ricardo. They've got 100% factored in that it's going to be a hold next Tuesday by the RBA. And even looking out towards October this year, there really isn't much of a chance of another hike. So it looks like they will be on hold for now. And unless we see really unexpectedly high CPI or PPI data in between now and then, I would expect it to continue to be on a hold.
Of course, the US Federal Reserve meets next week. We saw GDP figures coming out of the US as well, 1.1% annualised for the quarter, a bit softer than expected. Still a lot of focus on the tech sector in the markets, especially in the US. I've even seen one commentator calling it panic buying in the sector following better than expected March quarter's numbers for the likes of Meta and Amazon as well overnight. Tech stocks driving the gains here today too. Are we at a turning point in the sector?
Look, I don't think so just yet. I'm of the belief that we're headed into a US recession, a mild one, but a recession nonetheless. Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, like you said, all reported this week. Earnings they all basically beat on top and bottom line numbers, but these numbers have been revised down continuously over the last 6 months. So there were lower bars for them to jump across. And so we're still seeing profits and revenues struggle to lift across the board. Again, if we do go into a recession in the US, then these companies will still struggle because a lot of them have small to medium businesses that are customers, and these people will suffer as jobs are lost and business revenues and profits go down. So I don't think we're just there yet. The Nasdaq is also trading quite stretched on around the 25 to 26 times forward earnings at the moment. So I would like to see that number to come down before I started jumping in.
Locally, Coles reported a 7% rise in quarterly supermarket sales, along with an easing in food inflation. And I saw in its release today a deflation in some products like lettuce, cucumbers, carrots, seafood, dairy and meat categories also. Shares are down. What didn't investors like?
Look, there wasn't much to not like about it. It was a solid report overall. Like you said, the supermarket sales were up around 7%, liquor up around 2.5%. They have got some troubles with the construction of their fulfillment centre in Ricardo. So I think that could be a reason why. But also the shares have rallied pretty well this year, up around 10% for the year. So some of this could have been baked in as well. And also with deflationary pressures, it means it's harder for revenues to rise. So there may be some struggles ahead. They also did note that volumes in the fourth quarter, so the start of this quarter now, are modestly positive. So we're not seeing huge amounts of strength there. So we could see volumes drop off in the months ahead.
Lithium also in focus today. Why?
Pilbara Metals released their Q3 production report today. Again, another solid report, but production was down 9%, shipments down 3%. The price they received for the lithium was down 15%, although you're still talking about lithium spodumene prices of around $7,000 US a tonne. 7,000 US Australian a tonne. And they're producing at around $632 Australian a tonne. So they've got very wide margins still. They added $450 million to their balance sheet and have around $2.7 billion in cash. But also during the week, we had Chile come out and said they're going to start nationalising their lithium sector. So they want any new project that comes online to have some state government ownership as well. So obviously this is a sovereign risk and makes Australia, like the likes of Australia and Canada, more attractive for lithium projects. So I dare say we'll see more mergers and acquisitions here as companies look to diversify their production. And we've seen that with Albemarle and their bid for Liontown earlier this year. I think we'll see more moving forward as well.
Finally, where do you see the opportunities for investors at the moment?
Look, I'm of the opinion that, like I said before, we're into heading towards a US recession, possible global recession. So equities aren't at the forefront per se. I do like bonds and believe bond prices can rise for the rest of the year, and you can get access to them via ETFs on the ASX. Gold is also a safe haven and acts inversely, is inversely correlated to the US dollar and US yields. So that's another area. And then you can look at stuff like staples and healthcare. So your CSLs and your Cochlers and that of the world, healthcare is the last place people generally cut out of their budgets during tougher times. And like I said before, lithium may again be a place to park your money moving forward, as it does look like spot prices are starting to bottom and turn back up. And especially if we do see more merger and acquisition action in that sector.
Heath Moss there from HLM Investments. This SBS On The Money stream is provided for informational purposes only. The content in this stream should not be understood as constituting advice or a recommendation. It is not personal advice and it does not consider your personal circumstances or objectives. You should contact a licensed professional before making any financial decision.